Hey there, it's Jennie Wolek, Keller Williams Realty in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Thanks for coming back for another episode of Agent Success Secrets. And today you are going to be so excited to learn from Sarah Maslowski. Now, Sarah and I have gotten to know each other over the past couple of years. It's been so fun watching her growth and her journey, and specifically her mastering of YouTube. Now, Sarah, you have only been in this business for 6 years, and it's been already, you're just an awesome success. So, what would you say has a lot to do with how you've gone and moved through this real estate business so far?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Jenny. And yeah, I would say that probably the biggest key to my success is one, whenever I got into this business, there was a strong need that I really didn't have another option to be successful. Like I needed money.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of transitioned out of a career of being a teacher and working those teacher hours to being a real estate agent and treating it like a job. So I would go into and still do go into the office every single day, Monday through Friday. Whether I have appointments or, pressing things that need to be done, I'm still showing up in the office every single day. And I think that's largely helped with helping me be productive because at the end of the day, there's only so much you can, play around on Facebook before you're like, okay, I got to get something done.
Well, that's so important that you bring that up because that's exactly what I did. I had a real job before I got into real estate and I just carried it over. So we still approached it like a real job. And so many real estate agents get into this business for the freedom, the flexibility, think they're going to have this windfall of financial success, but they haven't put in any of the work. And so, now that you have 6 years of being consistent and doing the job and going to your real job, uh, looking back, what would you have done differently in the earlier days to get going maybe a little faster? Because we do waste a little time figuring out like what our talents are, I think.
Yeah. So this is something that we hear all the time, which is, you need to specialize in something. And, you need to have like your 3 to 4 lead gen pillars of what you're focusing on. Gary Keller has in J Papasan the book, The One Thing, right? And we know this, but yet it took a long time for it to sink in for me. It took a good solid 2 years until I made my one thing, YouTube and social media. And it was at that point, I was successful the 2 years before then, but it was a really hard grind. I was picking up business from little bits from here and there and everywhere. And there wasn't like really one big pillar that stood out as a major lead source for me. And the reason is because my attention was so diverse and I was just hearing all these great ideas. I'm like, oh, let me try that. Let me try that.
Yeah.
Let me try calling expireds. And I wasn't giving myself time to really become great at anything because I was trying way too many things. And it wasn't until I kind of made that shift, something clicked where I'm like, what would happen if I just tried this out? And that's what happened with me whenever I, started to focus on YouTube. I had that conversation with myself. What would happen if I really just focused on this for 90 days, regardless of the outcome? And I think so many agents miss that, but yet we do hear it all the time. So,
Yeah.
I'm not immune to the fact that it wasn't a new idea. I had heard that a lot, but it took a little bit for it to sink in for me.
Well, and we get so squirreled, right? Especially
Yes.
as a solo agent, you're doing all the things and wearing all the hats. So to stay really consistent on one lead gen lever can be really difficult. So you got to a point, you asked what could it look like, and you challenged yourself for 90 days. So kind of walk us through your journey of YouTube because it's been quite a successful one for you.
Yeah, thank you. So when I found these other agents having success with YouTube, had that talk with myself, like what would it look like if we do this for 90 days and not give up? Um, those first few weeks were really tough because one of the things that I had learned is that you have to put out one video a week to be successful and you have to be super consistent with that. So going into this, I knew that at least I had 12 weeks of videos that needed to be posted every weekend at a certain time. Very quickly into that journey, I realized I'm not an editor.
Yeah.
That's not my strong suit. Leveraging that out felt very risky and it felt like a big expense for me as a newer, still solo agent, kind of having a little bit of a scarcity mindset of like, oh, I can't afford to do this. But then I also realized I can't afford not to do this because I still have to make money as a real estate agent. I'm not going to become a full-time YouTube creator and magically have success overnight. So um, I leveraged out that editing piece. And as soon as I started posting that first video, like a few hours later, I like went and looked at the analytics to see how many people had watched it. And no one had watched it. And I was
Right.
like, oh, it's okay. It's just the first day. The next day I go and check and it's like three. I'm like, okay, give it
Your
a few more
mom
days.
and your family.
Right. Give it a few more days and then it's time for the next video to be posted and go back to look at the analytics from the first video and 12 people have watched it. And that's like very discouraging. And so you're like, nope, I made this commitment. And so for the first, 4 to 6 weeks of posting videos, it was very bad numbers. And it wasn't very encouraging, but I told myself, well, you said you were going to keep going. And it was about that 6 or 7 week mark. I got a phone call on a Saturday afternoon, didn't recognize the phone number. And the person on the other line was like, hey, I found you on YouTube and my family's thinking about making a move to Gainesville, Georgia. Do you have some time to talk to us? And I was like completely floored that that was the phone call. And, I was just so excited and wanting to just like run around the house and, and celebrate. And I was like, oh God, I have to have a conversation with this person and talk to them. So I had that conversation and then hung up the phone and ran to my husband. I was like, you won't believe what just happened. And he was like, okay. And, just like complete, like did not get the magnitude of the moment. But what that phone call taught me is that those first 6 videos, even though the views were incredibly low, it didn't matter. It just mattered that the right people were watching those videos. I don't need hundreds of thousands of views. I just need the people that are thinking about making a move to watch the videos. So that encouraged me to keep going. And yeah, and kind of like the rest is history. And then the phone calls started happening more frequently and all the things.
So while we're at it, what's the name of your channel so everyone that happens to watch can go subscribe and get good ideas from you so that they can rip off and duplicate all your success?
Yeah, so the name of my channel is Moving to Georgia, or you can type in my name, Sarah Maslowski, and that will bring you there.
Well, I think what I've heard you say is that it has to have a very narrow focus. So this isn't your best things to like it's not really for your locals. It's to attract people who may be moving there. So kind of talk about the thinking behind the attraction to your
Yeah.
channel.
So when before I got into this specific YouTube strategy and I heard other agents were having success with YouTube videos, in my mind I was thinking like, well, I'm already putting videos on YouTube. Like how are they having success and I'm not? I'm doing the same thing and it's not working. And I was posting like listing videos and the best fall festivals and how to appeal your property tax videos. And so when I went to see these other agents' channels, all of their videos were things you need to know before you move to Gainesville, Georgia, pros and cons of living in this specific town, cost of living in this specific town. And it was like a light bulb went off. I was like, oh, theirs looks drastically different than mine. They did not have any listing videos on their channel. They weren't talking about property taxes. They weren't highlighting businesses. They were just talking to someone that was moving to the town. And when I started doing some more research on this, it started to make a lot more sense. And the natural consumer behavior is such that they're going to go on Google or YouTube and seek out information that they don't know about something. And, if you're someone who's moving across the country for a job or thinking about relocating to a city, you're going to go see what it's like to live there and you're going to seek that information out online.
Yeah.
Local folks are not doing that on
Yeah.
YouTube. They're going to ask their family and their friends for that advice and information and that connection of who they know. They're not doing that research on YouTube. So the content that you need to be posting on YouTube specifically is talking to that relocation based client who's thinking about, possibly moving to your area.
I just think that's so smart and a shift in the way I was thinking of it. Like, I love Tulsa, and so I want to share everything about Tulsa, including all the things you mentioned that isn't what the consumer that's going to be moving here is really going to be looking for. So I have a question that I have not asked you before, and I haven't heard you mention. Is there a best time or day to post your video?
Yeah, great question. So I asked that same question to a great mentor early on, and they're like, it does not matter. Does not matter. You just have to do it. So pick a day, pick a time when you can consistently post your content. And I think at the time when I first started posting content, I did this for like 3 years. It was Sunday afternoons at 5 o'clock. I picked Sunday at 5 because that gave me 6.5 days to get a video ready. And I felt like, that gives me all the time that I need, even though in hindsight, no matter what day, that always would have been
Yeah.
6.5 days. But, something about it being the weekend made me feel like if I had or needed extra time on the weekend to get things wrapped up, I could. So that was my schedule for 3 years. And it wasn't until early last year that we changed our posting day. And that was because over time you're going to gain the analytics in YouTube, and you can go in on the back end and see
Oh,
when
yeah.
your audience is online and the time that they're most likely there to watch. I'll be 100% honest with you. We changed that posting date and time. Didn't really see that much of a difference.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I don't personally really feel like it matters. It just matters that you're showing up consistently. So we try incredibly hard to post a video every single week. Like it's a gold standard. We try not to ever miss a week.
Okay, when you say we, share with everyone who the we is that helps you make all this happen.
Yeah. So on the back end, I have an assistant who helps a lot with communicating with our editor, who edits our YouTube videos, and she also helps create the thumbnails for the videos. And so I do have some great leverage on the back end that helps with this. Um, it can be done as a one-man show, and I would highly suggest that at minimum you have to have an editor to help you with this.
Well, that's just a great investment because, like you said,
Yes.
we're here to sell real estate, and so our best talents are not spent editing video. I learned that early on. That's for sure. Something to leverage
Yes.
off. Now you've talked about this all the time, and I still want to make sure that other people out there hear it because I know it's important. I'm still struggling of how to do it at a high level like you are, but it's the thumbnails and the title that are so important, and tell us why.
Yeah, thumbnails and title are so important because when the consumer, potential client, goes onto YouTube and then they're searching for your town or information about your town, the first thing they're seeing is that YouTube is populating a list of videos that they think would, interest the viewer. And they're looking at that title and they're looking at the thumbnail, and that's what they're making their decision on about whether or not they want to click on it to watch your video. So you could have the most amazing editing, the most amazing content in the entire world, but if your thumbnail and title stink, no one's clicking on it. So we got to get them to click on your video so that they can get to the great information that you're delivering. Um, One of the things you'll notice about a lot of YouTube creators in real estate and not in real estate kind of see like a theme across the thumbnails, and that is usually a lot of them look pretty cheesy, and they're pretty simple. So 2 to 3 images at the most, bright colors, uh, text that kind of really stand out, very few words on the thumbnail. And so you just need to start recognizing those patterns and then looking at that and saying, okay, how can I recreate that for my video? Keep it very simple to a couple of elements, make it cheesy. If your face is going to be on there, your face needs to be way bigger than what you think it needs to be. The bigger, the better. And keep those words to a minimum. For your title, you want it to be somewhat catchy and short, as short as possible. Keep it short and simple and get your point across. And so again, you can get great inspiration by going and looking and seeing what other YouTube creators are doing, and go find an agent doing this really well in another city that you like their style and you like what they're doing, and just copy it.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
We're going to go to my next question, which was to go along with the thumbnail and the title. Do tags matter? Do tags matter? inside of your post?
So my understanding is that tags used to be super important, and
Right.
their importance is not so much anymore.
Okay.
Um, what value they still have, I'm not sure. So we still, put some relevant tags that kind of echo what the video is about, but it's like, an afterthought of the very last thing that gets done on a video, um, because of the understanding that really your title, thumbnail, description has way more SEO weight than the actual tags do. Another unique thing about YouTube now is that your actual content, like YouTube is getting the data from your actual content, like the words, and they're seeing like, do your words match up with the title of the video? And are you delivering on the actual promise of what the video is? And so that's super important too. If you're, promising the pros and cons, but you're, talking about something else completely in your video, YouTube doesn't like that.
I remembered it because you were talking about that it knows. Do you use ChatGPT for any of your information?
So ChatGPT can be very helpful as a springboard. What
Right.
I have found is that, and maybe I think you can like feed it a lot more information and then it can eventually learn your voice. But ChatGPT can be a very, very great resource to get the pros and cons about your town. However, it needs your personal touch. So if
Right.
you ask ChatGPT for a video script, it's going to give you a great video script for someone that's not you. You still want it to be in your voice with your personality, in your language, how you speak, the words you use,
Yeah.
and with your personal recommendations. So use it as a great starting point and add to it, rather than just taking it for gold and using it that way.
Is there an ideal timeline, an ideal length of the video? Because, of course, on YouTube, it's meant for video watching.
Right.
There used to be like, you want 2 to 3 minutes, but that's probably not the answer these days. It needs to be a little longer, right?
Yeah, so YouTube wants people to stay on
Yeah.
YouTube for as long as possible. So they also favor videos that have at least 8 minutes in length because that's where they can place ads the most and get the most revenue from videos that are at least 8 minutes. So we always aim for at least 8 minutes. The longer, the better, though. And so one of the things I've learned throughout this is that if you have a 10-minute video and someone watches 5 minutes of it, and then you also had a 4 minute video of, and people watch the entire 4 minutes, YouTube is going to favor that 5 minute watch time
Wow.
better than that 4 minute watch time because you're getting more actual watch time. So they value watch time, not percentage watched, which some other, social media algorithms value percentage versus the actual time. So the longer your videos, the better. Now, you still have to be somewhat engaging, and
Right.
it can be very hard to make a 15-minute plus engaging video. So for my videos, we personally kind of land between 10 and 12 minutes on average. Sometimes they're a little bit shorter, but definitely, don't get discouraged too whenever you look at your analytics and you're like, oh, people are only watching half of this video. That's okay. The people that are connecting with the content will watch, what they need to out of it and will reach out to you.
Okay, I'm just going so deep into questions, Sarah. I'm sorry. You made me think of other things. So, a script, are you practicing running through your script so you know how long it takes, or do you now just know how many words or it takes to get to that timeline? Because it sounds like time really matters.
I've tried this a lot of different ways, and there's some people that give the advice that you should not create a script. I have found that for me, the most efficient and effective way for me to do my videos is to have it scripted.
Yeah.
So we do write out a script for all of the videos. A few things that's important to note about this, though, is that you want to write that script exactly how you talk.
Yeah.
Like you're not writing a book report, and you don't want to make it sound like you're reading a blog post. You were just having a conversation with someone, sitting on the other side of the screen. So we have found that for us, between like a page and a half typed to 2 pages gets us to that like 10-minute mark.
Okay.
So we do use a script. I do use a teleprompter app.
Yeah.
Um, it takes practice. to use that and not make it look like you're reading from a teleprompter. So that's one way of doing it. Other people that script it out will either do like a really rough outline and they'll have the paper in front of them. They'll look down, look up, deliver a couple of lines, talk for a little bit about it, and then look back down, get the next section. And your editor is going to edit out all those look downs. So that's another way of doing it as well. Whenever I tried doing it that way, I found it would take me like an hour plus to film a video versus if I'm scripting it using a teleprompter, I can get it done in 15 minutes. So I really value that efficiency of time.
Yeah, it's so important. Okay, another one. With the teleprompter, I have a teleprompter and I love it for making videos. It's great and I've practiced and I feel like I'm doing all right at that. Then I'm just recording inside of my Zoom. You said that you are recording on your phone in our earlier chat. So you're having
Yes.
phone up and then maybe the teleprompter up behind or something.
Um, Yes, I've done it both ways. So there is a great teleprompter app that you can download. I've tried several different ones. My favorite is called Prompt Smart Pro.
Okay.
And the one unique thing about this is that it will stop and start as you stop and start. So it's not a continuous scroll, which is super helpful because when you mess up and stuff like that. Um, and so you can film with your front-facing camera, and the text will go across the screen. Um, Finally, I upgraded though to an actual teleprompter, or at least so I have an old iPhone that mirrors back into a teleprompter, but I'm still filming from my current iPhone using the back facing camera, which is a little bit better. So there's more expensive ways that you can go about doing this and have a little bit more professional setup, but I like very cost efficient ways of doing things. And
So what's the difference and why your phone, horizontal versus a tool on your computer that can record you? What's the difference on that?
so you do want to try to have like as best quality
Okay.
possible so that it makes for a good viewing experience for the viewer.
Okay.
Um, Whenever I was starting out, I don't feel like I'm very tech savvy and, getting a digital camera with an SD card, transferring files, that all just felt like too cumbersome for me. And so when I found that other agents were just using their iPhone and their videos looked fine, I was like, great, I already have this. This is easy. I can do this. And here I am 4 years later, and I still haven't, invested in a camera just because it feels a little bit too intimidating to figure all that out.
Yeah.
So if it's not broke, don't fix it. And if you're tech savvy and have a camera already, sure, use it. But definitely your iPhone has a really powerful camera. It's a little bit better than using your desktop camera.
Okay, super smart, super smart. Okay, another question I thought of. See, I obviously am so excited to get to chat with you. It's my own personal interview for very selfish reasons and all my notes. Okay, in the description, so you've got your awesome thumbnail, you've got your great title, maybe some tags, that doesn't matter as much, but in the description, how much text is going in there? And then inside of it, are you having like calls to action or other details?
The description needs to be a couple of sentences that tells what the viewer is going to learn in the video, but you
Okay.
don't want to like give away you don't want to put the entire video script in the description. So it's just a couple of sentences that's relating to the video and what it's about. The actual inside the video, whenever we're delivering, the actual content, viewers are seeing images and video that kind of match up with what we're talking about. So there's a lot of B-roll in there. So B-roll is the images that they're seeing whenever I'm talking about what a great neighborhood this is. They're seeing actual video footage of that great neighborhood.
Mhm.
So having text on the screen is very helpful. YouTube loves that. Viewers love that. It makes a more engaging experience. So occasionally, like where appropriate, there'll be text on the screen and maps and things like that. But these are all things that we learned along the way and kind of layered in. Certainly, back in the beginning, well, I mean, even a year into it, we were still like learning best practices and figuring out how to improve on the video. So you're always going to get a little bit better the more you start doing this and, start learning what would be helpful.
Sarah, you have only been in this business for 6 years. To me, you're still a baby. And after 23 years, sometimes the great thing about our business is we're always learning new ways of doing things. And I love that you are so open and sharing with all the things you've learned. So if you could go back just 6 years ago and talk with your younger self, what would you say to her about this business and how to best succeed while, living a great life at the same time?
Yeah, so going back 6 years when I got into this business, um, I was very scared because I never had a job that was, solely based on commission. I'd only had W-2, jobs before. And I think I was very naive about how easy the success would come. I thought if I just showed up, tried hard, and was a good student of real estate, that the business would come. And it was a much harder journey, and sometimes still is, than what I ever thought it would be. And I think I wish I would have known that a little bit more going into it, knowing that the people that you see have all this great success. It's not that they're better than you. It's not that they naturally have more confidence than you, or they're naturally more gifted in sales. It's just that they've gone through that really hard time and they kept going and kept going and kept going.
Yeah.
Um, and, I've learned that over time. Also, for me, I had a little bit of a struggle in the beginning of kind of learning that emotional resiliency that needs to come with real estate, because as we know, things are always going wrong. And you always have deals falling apart. You always have dramatic clients or weird scenarios or difficult agents on the other side. And that's just a fact of the business. And, you really have to toughen yourself up and become better at handling those challenges. And at the beginning, I was not good at handling those challenges. I would
It's hard.
just melt down and cry for a day or two, and until
Yeah.
someone, finally told me, like, look, you got to get over this and you got to keep going. This is real estate and you just need more business in the pipeline. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. So yeah, those are some lessons that I wish I would have had someone really tell me from the very beginning.
Those are great lessons and oh, so true. We have our number one value on our team is grit. You got to have
Yes.
grit to get through all this. So, how can people best find you and follow you and connect if they have more questions?
Yeah, I'd love for you to connect with me on Instagram. My handle is just Sarah Maslowski. And I am here in North Metro Atlanta area. So if you have anybody that's thinking about making a move, I'd love to partner with you and help them in that way. But I love helping agents and clients alike. So just let me know how I can help you.
Well, I appreciate you sharing with me all of your nuggets because it's making a difference. And whenever we can connect and share our stories with each other, that makes our industry even better. So I really appreciate you, Sarah.
Thank you. All
All right, I'll talk to you really soon.
right. Bye.
Bye, Sarah.